We don't remember either. So don't worry, I don't remember either. Okay. I want to begin by, first of all, wishing all mothers a happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
And my mother actually comes on Zoom usually, so she'll probably be on here. 1 second. Sorry about that. That's a recording that's happening on Zoom. All right. Then I have a little treat for everyone here. And in honor of the holiday of Shavuos, everybody gets a cheesecake.
It's funny because I'm not eating. You know I'm chocolate. I know, chocolate.
Vanilla?
Yes. I'm a chocolate. Thank you. Looks wonderful. Thank you.
Does Connie ever get out of the kitchen?
Well, I'll take her.
Thank you.
Look at your cake.
For you. And okay, so the holiday of Shavuos, there's a tradition to eat dairy foods. It's for a number of reasons. Go to chabad.org/Shavuos. Why do we eat dairy? Well, the most basic reason is because they received the Torah at Mount Sinai. It was Shavuos was actually Shabbos that year, and because of that, they were kosher come many complicating laws when it comes to meat. You have to slaughter the animals. We're actually going to talk about that briefly today. Slaughtering animals, you have to cook the animals, and all these things can't be done on Shabbos. And so they ate dairy. It was the easiest thing that they could do. That's one of the most common reasons. There's many reasons. But it's an old Jewish custom to eat dairy on Shavuos. So because of that, we have cheesecake and cheese blintzes. If you want cheese blintzes, you can come on Monday. We'll have cheese blintzes. Not this Monday, next Monday. Okay, today's class is a fantastic class. Not that the other ones are not, but this one is particularly good. And the reason, 1 second, let me just get the slideshow up for those of you that are on Zoom. Okay. All right, I see Margaret coming on. Today is called Superhuman versus Humans. Superhuman versus Superhumans. We're on page number 98. This is going to be the first text. I think it's page 90, 96, 97. So, as I was saying, today is a very, very fantastic class. And after reading today's class, you'll be saying, gee, I can't believe I never heard this before. And I wish I would have come earlier to hear all the rabbis.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Could you turn up the audio, please?
Yes, it is actually a little lower. Okay, is that better? Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
That's the loudest I can go.
Yeah, that's fine now. Thank you.
Okay. So what we're going to talk today, it's actually somewhat of a continuation of last week's class, but it's going to put everything into perspective. And it's going to show us how everything that we have that's part of Jewish tradition and Jewish faith is part of what we've been talking about, this culmination of purpose of creation coming all together. And we'll see how it actually plays out in the Jewish teachings, in the Torah and mitzvahs that we do, and why things in Judaism are so significant and important. We'll begin with a question. It's on page 97. Choose a mitzvah that you do regularly: attend Shabbat services, keep kosher, give charity, put on tefillin, study Torah. Why do you do this mitzvah? Select one or more of the following. It could be because God said so, makes my life more orderly and stable, makes my life more spiritual, it strengthens my Jewish identity, it feels right, makes the world a better place. Gesundheit. I believe that God will reward me for doing mitzvahs, or I'm afraid to disobey God, or other. I think that most people that do any Torah or mitzvahs or any traditions, Jewish traditions, probably fall somewhere in one of these categories mentioned here. And it may be different things for different reasons. You may go to synagogue because you're afraid to disobey God or your wife, and you may study Torah because you want to feel more spiritual. Right? So it could be different things for different reasons. But probably most of the things will fall under this category. But today, I want to take a deeper perspective. I want to have that as a backup for having some issues with my internet here. Okay. So let's take a look at text number 1. This is what the Torah tells us. In b'chukosai telechu. We just read this yesterday in the Torah. Whoever was here by synagogue yesterday. This was the second portion that we read. In b'chukosai telechu v'espesoisei tishmer v'atzitzim osam. If you follow my statutes and keep my commandments and observe them, I'll provide your rains in their proper time. The earth will give its produce, and the trees of the field will yield their fruits. What? It's not the V'ahavta, but it's similar wording. This is V'ahavta is Moshe telling it over in different words, but yeah. So we usually look at this as a reward or a prize or a payment for a good behavior. I'm doing what I got to do, so God's going to take care of me. And you're already shaking your head. No, that's not what it means. So today we're going to learn, in addition to some other ways to look at this, which we're going to get to soon. But today I want to take it even deeper. And that is connecting it in everything that we've been talking about, which is the Mashiach and the ultimate redemption. That it's not only about, when we talk about even not only having health or prosperity, or even some people will say they want to go to the world to come, but it's actually part of the greatest reward of all, and that is having a universe of Mashiach for all people. And this is described in the book of Tanya, which we quoted last week, chapter 37, text number 2. The ultimate perfection of the age of Mashiach and the resurrection, namely the revelation of the infinite radiance of God in this physical world, depends on your actions and our work throughout the duration of exile. For the reward of a mitzvah is the result of a mitzvah itself. This is because with the performance of a mitzvah, one elicits God's infinite radiance so that it descends into and is integrated within the physical matter of the world. So this is giving us very, very powerful statements, and there's a lot in these few lines that need to be unpacked. But what we first see here is that the world is the ultimate state of perfection when Mashiach comes. That's number 1. And number 2, what we see from here is that the time of Mashiach, the way it's usually perceived as, is we're going. Okay, now stop. Now we're changing the world. But the Alter Rebbe is giving us an insight, and perhaps that has been the perception based on some other beliefs and religions and Mashiach. But what we're learning over here is that it's actually completely different. When we talk about even great states of achievements, prosperity, health, longevity, and the soul aspect, the inner significance that we talked about the body, the soul, the spiritual revelation. So what we're actually doing is working throughout the time of exile to bring about that time and that state of reality. However, as we talked last week, the world is, so to say, an imperfection world, an imperfect world, and God is essentially in the world in a concealed way, and he's coming out, and it's our job to reveal whatever is concealed. Remember we talked about that last week, that he's concealed, and we have to reveal the divine reality. And when we do actually reveal that, then we're actually bringing out the intrinsic good and perfection that's really within this world that we have. And how is this done? This is done through all of our mitzvahs, all our actions, all our deeds throughout the duration of the galus of the exile. And then you have something that we talked about last week as well, which we'll be delving more into now. The idea that the reward of the mitzvah is the result of the mitzvah itself. So again, so we have these, and so what does that mean? Number one, it means that whatever we do within the mitzvah, it's a result of the reward of the mitzvah being the mitzvah itself. I'll give you an example. You could have one person that works in a company. Let's say he works for Google. He has a job, gets paid very well to do research, let's say. All right? And the boss is very happy with his work, gives him a paycheck. And he's able to pay for the hefty taxes in California. That's one scenario. Another scenario is, like we talked last week, let's say someone is a builder building a house. But in this case, building a house for himself, not just building to get a paycheck, but building for himself. So what is these houses were built by the owner. So what is the reward? Well, you could say that Chabad has the house. But what is the reward? The reward is that you have a beautiful house. That's your reward. You don't need to say, I'm getting paid for it. This is my hard work. Look how beautiful it is. I just struggled. I got here. I got to where this is. Or if someone's building up their own business or whatever. It's not only about the money. It's about knowing that, look, I was able to do this. I put this together. So the reward is the deed itself. The reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. And when we look at it in this way, both of these things really are very much connected when we talk about the different points that we brought out over here. The idea of the reward of the mitzvah being the mitzvah itself. The idea of our work, the revelation of the infinite radiance of God in this physical world depends on our actions of work throughout the duration of the exile. It's not that we're getting a reward because you worked so hard during the exile, so now I'm going to reward you. I'm going to take care of you. No. It's everything that you do is being part of building up this process to bring about the world to its state. So how does it work? So you say, okay, fine. I get the idea. But can you really explain to me how does that work? You know, how by putting on tefillin, am I actually making the world a better place? Okay, it's a fair question. How you know, I get it's important to come to synagogue and to read the Torah, but I'm not really affecting the world in any way. So let's take a look at this. What is a home? Okay, so we have the reward and the result. What is a home? There's two types of homes. You could have a home that's not really yours, that you're living with other people and, you know, dorming out or whatever. But a real home is where you are fully revealed. It's completely yours. I've had times, you know, I occasionally knock on people's doors randomly. And I've had times that people had to get dressed before they come to the door. They say, well, 1 minute, Rabbi, I didn't know it's you coming. So, but that's a home. A home is where you could, you know, get undressed, be yourself. You don't have to worry about what anyone is thinking about, what anyone's doing. You don't have to worry about anyone seeing you. You let loose. This is my home. This is my place. No one's going to tell me what to do in my place. So when we say making a home for God, we're saying to make a place where God could completely be revealed, could be open, could say, this is my place. So in order to do so, we have to make it a revealed place. We have to make that place where God could be completely revealed. And we said that there's two aspects. There's concealment and revealment and being revealed. But we also said that God's presence is really here. I'm going to give you a little example. We're going to work on this analogy that we have. What do you see before you? A piano. What is a piano for? You say it's to make music. So in one world, in one universe, or to one person, a grand piano could be to make music. And that's what it is, and that's what its purpose is. Especially someone that knows and appreciates music. Then you could have another universe, another alternate universe, where people have no understanding or appreciation for music. So to these people, the piano may be a nice piece of art. Could you say it's not? It's that too. I could put flowers there. I could put picture frames there. Someone has no understanding or appreciation for music. So for some people, that's what it is. A piano is a nice piece of art that is in the middle of the room. Is it not that? It's that too. Can't say it's not that. But is that really the purpose of the piano? For some people, or let's just say another universe, for this woodpecker, it's a piece of wood that I could peck at and eat. So that's another universe. 3 different universes seeing the same piano, essentially in the same place at the same time, but they're all seeing different things. Yeah. There were once Hasidim that were traveling together. And back in the day, they would go by horse and buggy. And in order to get the horse to run really quick, what did you do? You take a stick and you put some hay in front of it and then start chasing after the hay. So, and then when he gets to the place, then he gets to eat the hay. So I know we have some horse lovers here. So you're really going to the same place. The human is going because you got to do what you got to do there. The buggy is going because it's being pulled by the horse, and the horse is going because he wants the hay, but they're all going to the same place. So they would give this example. They're going to travel to their Rebbe for the holiday. They say, okay, the horse is also going, but we're going for different reasons. So you could have the same thing, but it's a question of what you perceive. What's the identity that you have? Our world is like this piano. We have all kinds of things in this world. We have all kinds of physical things in this world, from very amazing things in this world. Beautiful homes, gardens, we have tables, chairs, everything. What do we not have? We talked about first class. You go to the supermarket. What could you not buy today? Whatever you want, you could buy. But you could experience those things in different ways. And that is what we want to talk about today. How do you have it that you experience the piano for the beautiful music that could play? That you have to have a fine-tuned ear to appreciate the beautiful music that could play, to understand really what its purpose is. For some, it's simply a piece of furniture. Just like everything in life, okay, it's there for me to enjoy life. I like to have beautiful things. I like to have a beautiful house. I like to have a beautiful car. Why? Because I want to enjoy it. Okay. Could you say it's not that? It's that too. But then there's a deeper perspective, and that's understanding the purpose of what this is. So that's what we're going to explain now. Reveal what is there, but you didn't see it previously. That's what it is. Revealing doesn't mean to bring something new. Revealing means that it's there. You see it. It's in front of your eyes. But you got to put the glasses on. And when one wears glasses knows the difference between seeing something blurry and seeing something clear. If you put your glasses on, you're seeing a different thing now. So if we put our spiritual glasses on, we're going to see how everything in this world is actually part of something much greater, much deeper than what we could perceive in the outset. We're going to look at this next text, and we're going to see how this actually happened. So we talked about the what. This is what we're getting to. But let's talk practically. How do you want to say that a chair is doing a mitzvah?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's take a look. Text number 3.
Text number one.
Text number 3. Page 101. Through the performance of a mitzvah, a person causes the flood of God's infinite light to descend from above and be enclosed within the corporeality of the world, within an object that was previously under the dominion of and whose existence depended upon the spiritual forces that obscure the godly reality. This includes all things that are kosher and permissible with which a mitzvah is then performed. For example, the parchment used in tefillin, a mezuzah on a Torah scroll, an esrog, citron as long as it's not arla, fruits from a tree, first 3 years which are biblically prescribed, money given to charity so long as it has not been dishonestly acquired, and similarly with other material things. When one uses these objects to perform God's mitzvah and thereby fulfill his expressed desire, their vivifying force ascends and is absorbed within God's infinite light. So that's step number 1. Know that what we're using, whatever we're using in this world, now absorbs God's infinite light when it comes down to be used in this world. For example, the tefillin, the mezuzah, the Torah scroll, the esrog, etc. The cheesecake. Right? Text number 4. There are 2 aspects to every mitzvah. One aspect is the fact that within every mitzvah that we do, we fulfill God's will. In this regard, there is no difference between one mitzvah and the next. An individual fulfills a mitzvah not because of its unique qualities and its unique effects, but simply to carry out God's will. This aspect of the mitzvah is aptly demonstrated in observation of Rabbi Shneir Zalman Liadi, that if we were commanded to chop wood, we would do it in obedience to divine will with the same enthusiasm as we fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin. The second aspect of a mitzvah is that each mitzvah brings a spiritual refinement to the individual performing the mitzvah. Similarly, the mitzvah brings a spiritual refinement to the objects with which it is performed and ultimately refines the world. The difference between these two elements is that with the first aspect, the specifics of the mitzvah are irrelevant. All mitzvahs are equal, for they are all equally God's will. By contrast, the second element highlights the significance of each mitzvah's specific details, for each mitzvah brings a dissimilar branch of spiritual enhancement to the soul and it refines the world in a different way. So there's two aspects in doing a mitzvah. One aspect is that you're fulfilling God's will. You're doing what God wants. And in that aspect, all mitzvahs are the same. There isn't one that has any reason or meaning over another one. By commanding us to do a mitzvah, God is designating us to fulfill his will. And when we do that, every action that we do, that we're engaged with, we are becoming an instrument of God's will at that time. And we're demonstrating that my existence, my desire is irrelevant. I'm doing what God wants me to do. And in that case, I'm not doing what I feel fit. I'm doing what God is commanding me to do. In this respect, all mitzvahs are equal. All are the same. We're doing it because God's telling me to do it. This is what I have to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. So then it really doesn't matter. As an example we give, if God said, I want you to sit and chop wood all day, that would be equal to saying that I want you to read from the Torah. Because one is a mitzvah. If he were, there is no mitzvah to chop wood all day. But if it were, that would be the same. You're doing what God's telling you to do, fulfilling God's will. But then there's a second function. And the second function is a specific spiritual refinement that comes from this individual thing. So the first one, you're just penetrating the concealment, you're allowing God's light to come in different ways. The second mitzvah is more connected to what we talk about making a home for God, is by refining and elevating this particular piece of the world that's being dealt with. This piece of the world may be a physical object, may be associated with a talent you have, with a natural resource, a cultural phenomenon, and so on. These are things that refine both us and the world around us, which we are engaged with. So, if you're saying a prayer and you're moving your lips, you're refining your speech at that time. If you're going shopping for your mom for Mother's Day to buy her a gift, then you are refining that aspect of the world, which is a mitzvah, to honor your parents. These are different things that we're doing, each one refining a different aspect and a different element in this world. With regards to the second function, every mitzvah is different. Every mitzvah has different aspects to it. When I observe Shabbos, I'm instilling the awareness that the world has a creator and a purpose. When I light Shabbat candles, I'm working to bring more light to the world. When I do the mitzvah of mikvah, then we are refining our intimate aspect of life. When I am doing the mitzvah of charity, I'm elevating the business aspects of life. You know how many mitzvahs that are associated with business? Many mitzvahs. When I'm putting on tefillin, I'm elevating my arm, my mind, my heart. I'm putting a mezuzah on the door. I'm elevating the home, which that door opens up to, and so on and so forth. And so there are two aspects that we have to see within this mitzvah. I'll give you an example. Well, let me get an example. Yeah, what's the question?
Is it still a mitzvah if you do something nice for somebody and you know that they're going to do something nice for you in return?
Well, you're still the one doing it. I mean, the mitzvah of Avos Yisrael, part of that is also making the connection. Avos Yisrael, loving your fellows, part of making that connection. Even on the contrary, it's even better if they're going to do something in return. I'll give you an example. If you have a relationship with a loved one, so there's different things that you may do for them. You may take out the garbage, and you may bring flowers on anniversary, right? Now, obviously, one looks a little more romantic than the other. Bringing flowers looks a little more romantic. And maybe that will bring a certain aspect of relationship. But at the end of the day, even if I'm taking out the garbage, that's still part of this relationship. That's still strengthening this relationship. Keeping that together, they're all aspects within it. But then on the other hand, each one has their own elements. Taking out the garbage is not going to be equal to making a nice dinner that they're going to enjoy. So the same thing when it comes to our relationship with God. Every mitzvah brings about that connection. Every mitzvah is important. But different ones bring a different relationship in a different way. That includes mitzvahs that God says don't do. Don't serve other idols. That's also part of relationship. By not doing it, you're helping make that stronger. And by not doing it, we're helping refine the world in that way too. It's hard to imagine it. At the time of the first temple, it was everything that they did. It was so bad that when they rebuilt the second temple, they had to say a special prayer to get rid of the desire for idolatry. That's why we don't have it today. It was switched for money. That's where the new desire came. It's true story. Anyway. So, regarding the second function of this mitzvah, to refine a person, so specifics do matter. The first aspect of the mitzvah, it doesn't matter specifically what it is. Take a look at text 5. Does God truly mind if a person slaughters an animal from the throat or slaughters it from the back of the neck? Rather, the mitzvahs were given only to refine the individuals who perform them. When a person slaughters an animal properly, I'm not suggesting that anyone here does that, although I did once visit the slaughterhouse in Iowa. It's fascinating how they do it, but when we pay attention to these things, what we're actually seeing is that in a specific way, we're bringing out the sensitivity of the animal to that even if the animal is going to be killed, that it should be done in a sensitive way, in a mindful way, as opposed to the way other people do it. So, but at the same time, it's not about that. So there's two aspects to it. One is you're doing it because this is what God told me to do. Second one is there's this aspect of refinement of both the individual that's doing it and the world that it's affecting by doing those things. Okay. So let's give a few examples. Text number 6 will give us a variety of mitzvahs, different examples. This is from the Medrash. God did not leave anything in this world without providing the people of Israel with a means of performing the mitzvahs with it. A person proceeding to plow must heed. Do not plow an ox with a donkey together. Similarly, if one wishes to sow, do not sow kilayim, hybrid plantings in your vineyard. Reap when you reap your harvest in your field. Leave any forgotten sheaves for the poor. Thresh, do not muzzle with an ox while it is threshing. Knead dough, from the first kneading of dough, separate some challahs and give to the priest. Remove eggs from the necks, send away the mother's bird. Slaughter a wild animal or fowl, cover its blood with soil. Plant a tree, observe the arla by abstaining from its fruit for the first 3 years. Bury a deceased relative, do not mourn excessively by slashing yourself in grief. By the way, burying is a mitzvah. It's not just a tradition, it's a mitzvah to bury. And not, God forbid, being cremated. Take a haircut. Do not shave the corners of your head. Build a house. Install a safety fence around its roof. And inscribe these words on the doorposts of your home and on your city gates. By the way, putting a fence around the pool is also part of that mitzvah. Wear a garment that has 4 corners. They shall make for themselves tzitzis. So the point is that we see that there's so many aspects of life. And this is talking about a time when farming was very big, but you have other mitzvahs. There's learning the laws of loans, for example, borrowing, a lot of laws of money, of business. Everything in Jewish life has a mitzvah that's associated with it some way or other. You name it, there's a mitzvah that goes with it. So I once saw one of these memes that said, thank God we don't have to do Xmas trees. Because could you imagine how many laws would be associated with what size it has to be, how big, where, how? But everything is like this, right? So let's sum this up. Figure 3.1, we're going to sum up the first aspect of our discussion today. Performing mitzvahs transform the world into a home for God, an environment in which the divine reality is fully expressed with two-pronged approach. Number 1, in general way, every mitzvah action counteracts the inherently selfish self-perception of physical reality and reinforces the truth that it exists only to serve a higher purpose. But in a specific way, each mitzvah makes a particular part of the world more spiritually refined, more generous, more aware, more respectful, more loving, more connected, etc. And here's where it gets interesting. Just want to make sure this is still recording on YouTube. Yeah, still recording. Okay, good. So you say, okay, great. So you want me to refine the world. Do you want me to refine the world? And you're saying that by doing a mitzvah, I'm going to refine and elevate whatever I'm doing. Okay. But let's be realistic. The Jewish population of the world is 0.1%. And Chabad is in many places in the world, but not everywhere. And even so, even where you are, you're only encompassing a very small part of even wherever you are. And the amount of Jewish people, even in more populated Jewish areas, still only takes up a certain percent. So realistically, it sounds nice to say, okay, I'm going to refine my home. Let's say I'll put a mezuzah on my door. I'm going to refine my home. But, that's how many Jewish homes are there already that are putting a mezuzah on their door and each one having a kosher mezuzah? It's a little political joke, but I think you could hack it. I once came to someone and they said that they once got a knock on their door. They live in the villages here. They once got a knock on their door. And the people at the door asked them, do you want to join the Democratic Party? And she says, why? She says, well, because all the Democratic Party have this on their door. Okay. I said I think you can handle it. Okay. It's
very true.
It's a true story. Anyway, that's someone told me that happened. Anyway, but the fact is, how are we really affecting that much? We're relatively small. I mean, yeah, you even have some Jews who are in high places, even if you want to say that they're doing it, and sometimes people come, they make a bit, they do beautiful things. They may even put on a yarmulke going in public, in a very public place. You could even go and light the menorah. They do now menorah lightings, and in the stadiums, and Buccaneer Stadium, they do it, and throughout a lot of the cities have it. But realistically, how much of the world are you really affecting? So we're going to learn now something really, really fantastic. We're going to see how every mitzvah could actually affect the entire creation. Even though we're a very small function, a very small facet of that, but still, we're able to affect the entire world. And here's how. Everything that we have, everything that we do, takes an incredible amount of energy, manpower, and thought, work, time to make that. As a matter of fact, we're going to watch a small video now that's going to show us what it takes to make a pencil.
Muster an army of workers, machines, factories, ships, trains, and endless natural supplies. What do you get? A pencil. In 1958, Leonard Read penned a classic to document the mind-boggling diversity of materials and skilled labors required for a single manufactured object. He detailed the production of a pencil, speaking in the pencil's voice. My family tree begins with a cedar of straight grain. Contemplate all the saws and trucks and rope and the countless other gear used in harvesting and carting the cedar logs to the railroad siding. Think of all the persons and the numberless skills that went into the fabrication of these logging tools. The mining of ore, the making of steel and its refinement into saws, axes, motors, the growing of hemp and bringing it through all the stages of heavy and strong rope. Reed describes railroad networks and communication systems that bring the logs to mills, and the millwork that produces thin slats. He asks, how many skills went into supplying the heat, the light and power, the belts, motors, and all the other things a mill requires? Reed includes the workers who constructed the hydro plant that supplies the mill's power, trains that transport the slats, a factory that cost millions to erect and equip with brilliant machines that slit the slats and insert the lead, and the lead itself, produced by mixing graphite mined in Sri Lanka with clay from Mississippi and treating it with Mexican wax. The pencils receive 6 coats of lacquer and are labeled with carbon black mixed with resins. An eraser holder made of zinc and copper is attached, and black nickel rings are added. Finally, the pencil's eraser is a rubber-like product made with Indonesian rapeseed oil, Italian pumice, sulfur chloride, vulcanizing and accelerating agents, and cadmium sulfide. One pencil, millions of dollars, dozens of countries, thousands of miles. But we can add something radical that Reed never considered. What if this pencil belongs to David, who uses it for Torah classes? It helps him observe the mitzvah of Torah study. That changes everything. Divinity, generated by his mitzvah, illuminates his soul and body and elevates the pencil as well. That powerful godly light travels back along the pencil's production route, elevating the factory, railroads, minerals, investments, skills, lives, and all that Reed so vividly described. Think about that the next time you offer charity. Light a Shabbat candle, or wind tefillin around your arm. With each mitzvah act, so much of this world is connected with divinity.
Okay, isn't that great? So you never thought of it that way, right? Think about what we're doing right now. We have this book. How many aspects does it do to put together each of these books? How many countries? China and Holland and California. You have the ink that's needed to make it. You need the software, the computers that's used to put it together. We have the projector, the video, everything, all aspects are being elevated. It's elevating everything within that's being done. That's by the way, it's also explained that the mitzvah of tzedakah, charity, is where you see it the most, because when you're doing charity, so you're taking the whatever you worked with, and anything that you worked with to receive that dollar all goes back to its original sources. Any companies that you made deals with, any people that you met, all their work to come together is all elevated through that dollar of tzedakah that's being given. So simply doing a mitzvah is not just a mitzvah, but it's doing so much more in this aspect of revealing godliness in the world. Wait, let me get back here. The Zoom, I forgot that. We're doing the Zoom. Okay, they're getting the two voices. Okay. Now I know why it's happening. And that is because you're actually hearing the one that's playing here in the background. So for next time I do this, I'm just going to remove the sound from this video. So you'll just hear the other sound. Okay. And again, these videos can be seen online, myjli.com/this can happen. There's actually a video that you could see about a guy that says how to make a $1,500 sandwich in only 6 months. $1,500 sandwich in only 6 months. And what he does is basically he makes it from scratch. He has to grow the wheat to get the stuff. He has to get the animals. He has to slaughter the animals. He has to travel to get there. He has to get on train. He has to get his own mill. It goes through everything and showing how long it takes to get that one sandwich that we take for granted. You go to the store and you buy it and it's all ready to go. So every mitzvah that we do in this world is making us one step closer to a home of perfection for God. There's a story with MetLife Stadium. A couple of years ago, 2019, they had a big convention for a bunch of Jews who finished studying the entire Talmud. They packed the stadium, 90,000 Orthodox Jews who concluded the entire Talmud, which if you study one page a day, you finish it in 7.5 years. So these people, there's people that do it, study page every day of the Talmud, and every 7.5 years they concluded. So they finished 7.5 years and wanted to make a big celebration. We're going to make a big celebration. So they rented out MetLife Stadium. MetLife Stadium is MetLife is in New Jersey. It's where the Giants and the Jets play. I know you don't follow football, so the Giants and the Jets. Anyway, it's probably the biggest stadium in the Tri-County area and the New York area. So when they were there, they were meeting with the owners of the Jets, the Giants. One of them is Jewish. I don't know which one. And over there were some of the other big machers there, the guys that built the stadium, and so some of the big machers in the stadium were there by this meeting where they were planning it out to have this event. So one of the individuals got up and said, I was charged to build the stadium. I spent 10 years of my life, and we got the stadium built. It's a beautiful stadium. He said, but I was always felt something lacking. We got paid well. That's not an issue. But I felt that, why am I wasting 10 years of my life so people could party and drink and just have a good time? Is that what really I want to spend my life doing? And he says, now that I see that it's being used for this, to have a convention of people that study Torah and elevating all those pages of Talmud that were studied by tens of thousands of people. He says, now I know it's all worth it. Right? Imagine what it takes to build a stadium and how much that's being elevated. Anyway. So now if you go back to the first question and you say, what is the reason that we do a mitzvah? We talked in the very beginning and we gave a few examples. Is it because God said so, because it makes my life more orderly, makes my life more spiritual, strengthens my Jewish identity, it feels right, makes the world a better place. I believe that God will reward me for doing mitzvah, and I'm afraid to disobey God. All these are true, but now we're going to add one step more. And that is all the above, but we'll do this mitzvah in order to bring Mashiach. Why is this not working? I'm going to do this mitzvah, one more thing in order to bring Mashiach. Why? Because by doing so, I'm revealing God's presence more in this world. Not that it wasn't there, but it's becoming more and more revealed in this world. And in order to really appreciate this, we're going to go back to another aspect that we spoke about in the previous lesson, and that is the idea of a partner mentality. To see ourselves as a partner with God in creation. The Talmud tells us, the Torah considers, text number 7, the Torah considers those who recite the passage of Vayichulu during the eve of Shabbat, which is Vayichulu Hashemayim v'aretz v'chol tzevam, Vayichalu ki hayom hashvi'i, right? That which we begin saying Kiddush on Friday night. Why is it so important to say that? Because it says that if you say those prayers on Friday nights, as if you become God's partners in his work of creation. Because you're saying God had completed everything that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day. And by saying that, God is saying, I rested on the seventh day, and I'm allowing the human beings to be my partners now to finish up what I rested from. And understanding this will help us understand this concept more. Imagine people working in a business. One is an employee and one is a partner. The casual observer might not see much of a difference. You have one who's flipping burgers and another one is sitting in the back, but they're basically both seem to be working for most of the day. But there are not so subtle differences between them. You know that show Undercover Boss, where they go to see what their workers are doing? What are some differences between an owner and a worker? A lot of differences. So we're going to take a look at some of these, and we're going to see how this is very relevant to our discussion here to take this a step further. We talked that Mashiach is something that's very central to Judaism. We talked about being fundamentals of our faith. It's not just something that we have to hope and believe that hopefully there's going to be a day that everything's going to be better and everything's going to change. No. It's about us creating the reality. It's about us being part of this aspect. Now, theoretically, we could be doing all these things without knowing why we're doing them or what significance anything that we do actually has. We could be doing it just because God told me I have to do it, or my mother told me I have to do it, or my grandmother told me I have to do it, and so I'm going to do it to make her happy. And it doesn't mean that you're not being part of what has to get done. But you're not the owner. You're a worker. You know, you can have Microsoft having many different workers there, salespeople, accountants, secretary, security guards, drivers, maintenance, everyone. Do they all know the purpose of the company? Maybe. That's why a lot of companies try and take their workers and say, look, this is our mission statement. This is, you have to know what you're doing. But in many cases, the security guard really doesn't care what's the mission statement of the company. They have their own company, and their job is to guard that door. That's it. And the same with secretaries, accountants. It depends. Some people may, some people may not. The following text is from Rabbi Yoel Khan, he was known as the Chozer. He was the one that was in charge of transcribing all of the Rebbe's talks. He's still alive today. He's an older man, but incredible mind. He says like this: a Jew can argue, practically, why is it important? Text number 8. Practically, why is it so important for me to know that the redemption will arrive someday? I need to do my work and fulfill that which God instructs me to do. It's not my business to know or to be concerned with the greater objectives and the results of my service. The fallacy of this approach should be self-understood. But here's an illustration. Imagine a soldier in the midst of the battle standing up and saying, it's not my business to know why my commanding officer gave me an order to fire my weapon. All that is important is that I meticulously follow the orders handed down by me by the chain of command. The fact that my actions impact the outcome of the battle, causing the enemy to retreat and bringing my side closer to victory, is irrelevant to me. I just need to shoot my rifle. This soldier, even if he dutifully executes every order he is given, will lack morale and passion. Moreover, without a doubt, to one degree or another, it will negatively impact his performance in the battlefield. The same is true regarding our service of God through Torah and Mitzvah observance. We cannot claim that it's not our concern whether or not our service affects the long-awaited victory. We must know that there is a campaign underway, and that is our mission to bring it to a successful conclusion. We must be keenly aware of the reality that with each additional mitzvah, we reveal more godliness in this world, thereby moving a step closer to the ultimate triumph. Speaking for itself. So if you have your mission statement, even if you are working in the company, but what is your mindset? Is your mindset of that of a partner, or is your mindset of that an employee? An employee, 9 to 5, tell me what to do, give me my stack of work, I'm going home and I'm done. Give me my paycheck, that's all I want. An owner, I'm part of it. We're part of something greater. We're going to do something together. We're going to accomplish this incredible thing. Yeah.
But if you're Jewish and you work for somebody, you have to figure out how you can open your own business if you learn everything.
Very good. So we have 2. We're going to take a look at a few of these aspects. This is aspect number 1. Number 1 is regarding the job description and the company mission statement. Again, it's not even so much about whether you're a partner or not. The point is, what is your mindset? You could have some workers that are incredible workers, and they feel like they're doing something. They're being part of making this company successful, right? And those are the ones that get prizes on Undercover Boss. The other ones don't get prizes. So this is one aspect. Now let's take a look at another aspect. That may be a little less annoying. See the fan spinning in the video. So let's take a look at another aspect. and about an employee mentality versus a partner mentality. The employee does their job, they get compensated, and this is the reward model. The partner, on the other hand, is motivated by the results of what their actions are, what their efforts are. The partner is personally invested in the goal of what's going to be done. And everything that they do, they know that's part of furthering the goal of what they want to accomplish. When it comes to doing a mitzvah, there's one way of doing a mitzvah. God has a set of rules. I got to follow the rules. I don't want to be punished. I want to get a reward. I want to be happy. So I'm going to do what I got to do. And this is the way some people live. Fine. You follow rules and regulations. But the problem is that all that they're concerned is, how am I going to benefit? How am I going to gain? How am I going to be happy? That's all that's important. I'm not part of what has to get done. It's not just following the boss telling me what to do. As long as the boss is happy, I'm happy, all is good, fine. But that's lacking the quality of some way. The demeanor is basically just a cost-gain dynamic. This is what we read in Ethics of Our Fathers. Antigonus of Socha received the tradition from Shimon the Righteous. He would say, do not be a servant to serve their master for the sake of the reward. Rather be servants to serve their master, not for the sake of reward. And some of his students misinterpreted this, thinking that it means that there is no reward. But what he's saying is, it's not about getting the reward. Yeah, you'll get taken care of. You'll have a reward. But what are you focused on? You're focused on getting the results done, getting things done, knowing that you have to get your mission in place. It's a different thing. Figure 3.3. What's the second aspect? We have the employee versus partner number 2. First one we said job description versus mission statement. Second one is about the reward and one is about the results. One is about me and one is about the purpose. What is your focus? If you're doing it for the reward, you're still getting it done. You're doing what you have to do, but it's different. The way it's being done is different. And therefore the effects is different. Which brings us to an additional partner reality aspect. And this is really going to be the clincher for the entire discussion today. We already discussed the fact that the belief in Mashiach is a very significant part of our faith. Believe in Mashiach and do not think that he will be delayed. If you look at all the text, the Maimonides, the original text 10a, the 12th foundation of Jewish belief is the era of Mashiach, that is to believe and affirm that he will come and do not think that he will be delayed. The words of the prophet Habakkuk, if he tarries, expectantly await him. 10b, the Rambam Maimonides says, anyone who does not believe in Mashiach and does not expectantly await his coming denies not only the other prophets, but also the Torah and our teacher Moses. Text 10c, I believe with the complete faith in the coming of Mashiach, although he may tarry, I expectantly await his coming every day. There's another Talmud that's not brought here that says, when someone comes to heaven, they're going to ask him, Tzipisa Yeshua, did you await being salved for the salvation? What is the difference? When you are anticipating something, you could have one way to say, look, I hope it's going to happen. It's going to happen someday. Let me just do my thing. I'm going to live my life. Hopefully it's going to happen. If not, it will happen for my children. And that's it. But over here we're saying no. the anticipation is part of the mitzvah of Mashiach. Being part of it, knowing I have to await him every day. Sing a song, we want Mashiach now. What does it mean we want Mashiach now? It means that we want him, not only hoping that hopefully he'll come one day, but that this is something that should happen. In text number 11, we see a text from the Talmud that says like this: Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi met with Elijah the prophet and asked him, when will Mashiach come? Elijah responded, go and ask him. Okay, where is he located? At the gateway of the city of Rome. By what sign can I recognize him? He is sitting among the poor who suffer from illnesses. All the others untie their bandages at once and then rebandage all their wounds together, whereas he unties and rebandages each wound separately, thinking, perhaps I'll be needed immediately to bring the redemption and I must not be obeyed. And I must not be delayed. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi went to him and greeted him. Peace upon you, my master and teacher. Mashiach responded, peace upon you, son of Levi. Master, when will you come? Today. Rabbi Yeshua came back to Elijah and complained, he lied to me. He told me he's coming today and he didn't come. Elijah responded, this is what he told you. Today, if you will listen to his voice. So what is this trick answer? Mashiach says, I'm coming today. He really didn't mean he's coming today. So he goes back to Elijah. Elijah says, it means today, if you're going to heed my voice. What exactly is going on? And I'm not going to go with the technical. What does it mean? Mashiach is sitting by the entrance of Rome. Obviously, it's a bit metaphoric. But let's talk about this response. Today, but it doesn't really mean today. It means if you listen to my voice. And the answer is that he was trying to impress upon Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi the aspect of the awaiting. He's coming and asking him, when are you coming? Mashiach is saying, that's not a question. Because if you're asking me, when are you coming? So I'll fold my hands and say, okay, fine. And since then, how much is it? 1,000 years since the story? In 1,000 years. Okay, fine, I'll go back to sleep. But that's not the approach. He's telling him, your approach has to be that it's today. That has to be your mindset. That it's happening today. It's immediately. Only in retrospect, you can say, okay, it didn't happen today. So then tomorrow it's going to be today. Mashiach is sharing this mindset. He's saying this is the way we have to see it. We must be ready to respond immediately. Well, you say to yourself, okay, but is that realistic? Is that realistic to get up every morning and say, okay, Mashiach is coming today? You say yes. So I'm going to put this into perspective a little bit. It's one thing to say that something is happening despite our improbable current circumstances. There's a power of faith. But could I expect it to happen? So we saw how many of the Messianic prophets, the Messianic prophecies are actually being fulfilled. But Jews believed intensely in Mashiach even when these signs weren't as clear. For thousands of years, they were already praying for Mashiach, as we said, notwithstanding the progress that's described. So I want to take a look at, to give a little perspective, and we're talking about the partner mentality. If you were to go to Elon Musk and tell him, is there going to be a living community on Mars? You know what he'll answer you? Absolutely. Without question. It's going to happen. And you say, that's impossible. Well, if you went to him 10 years ago and said, is there going to be a self-driving car? He'll say, absolutely, without a question. You laugh and say, okay, fine. Well, what do you mean? We're just going to charge it in our house and then it's going to die in the middle of the highway? He'll laugh it off and say, what do you mean? There's going to be charging stations instead of gas stations. What? It's not going to be any more gas stations. There's going to be charging stations. In other words, his aspect, his viewpoint is different when it comes to these things. It's not only about what is actually happening. It's about the mindset of what's happening. How am I living that life every single day? Yeah.
And that's the whole point of him, let's say, because every single day he works towards those
Right.
ends.
Right.
And when that end finishes, he works towards another end, and he keeps working towards all these ends that never end. I mean,
Right.
it's
And obviously he's a very unique individual in that aspect. But the point is not only about what he's doing to get there. Point is, it's already a reality in his mind. As far as he's concerned, today, there is a full life on Mars. Okay, now I'm not going to get into the technical, whether in Jewish faith we believe it or not. There was a professor named Professor Green, and he was a rocket scientist, and he once asked the Rebbe, he became religious, and he once asked the Rebbe, should I continue studying if there's life on Mars? And the Rebbe told him, yes, you should keep studying if there's life on Mars. He says, it doesn't mean that there is, but you should keep studying as part of your job. Most rabbis would not have said that, probably. They would have said, look, life on Mars. So anyway, but the simple answer of what we're saying is that when we talk about reality, what is exactly your reality? You know, I know there's certain Chabad rabbis who, wherever they go, they see the Mashiach reality of this aspect of life. And it takes training to get there. I don't know if I'm there myself. It takes work to change your mentality. When they look, every single time they meet a Jew in an airport, in a bus station, they always have their pair of tefillin with them. They put it on the tefillin and they'll go and say, you know, you just brought Mashiach closer by putting on tefillin. You know, there are people that live this way. And, you know, I'll say for myself, I have to work on myself to be able to feel that way as well. But to know that everything that you're doing in the world is part of Mashiach coming, and knowing that this is bring Mashiach today. So again, this is another aspect of the whole partner mentality. And knowing the world is about concealment. But once we understand that the concealment is not what the reality is. There's an inner truth here within everything. And there is an inner goodness and perfection in everything. And knowing and seeing that aspect to every single thing in life changes our perspective completely. We know everything we do, everywhere we go, every word we speak, every action we do is part of making the world a place for Mashiach more revealed. And once we understand this inner truth that Mashiach is no longer a utopian dream, because we understand that that's not what the meaning of Mashiach is. Mashiach is revealing the ultimate truth that exists within the subsurface of this world. It's seeing the piano for what it's meant to do, to play that music. Our job is just to reveal it. The very beginning of creation represents the soul of Mashiach. We quoted the Rabbeinu Bechai, who says the original thought of Mashiach, there was the spirit of Mashiach hovering over the earth. But there's another aspect to this, text number 12. The Torah says that the Spirit of God hovered over the surface of the waters. We quoted this last week. It's referring to the soul of Mashiach. This informs us that the soul of Mashiach has been standing at the ready ever since the days of creation. It hovers over the waters, held back until we return to God, as it is stated today, if you'll listen to my voice. Again, that statement. So we say, we want Mashiach now. Soon play you the video of it. We want Mashiach now. What does that mean? Okay, sounds like a nice children's song, which it is. But it wasn't a joke. When it was first sung, I'll show you the video soon, when it was first sung, it seemed like something cute, but it's not. Now, this is the difference, another difference between an employee mindset, partner mindset, these three things. Number one, it said focus on the job description, reward-oriented, and does not need to believe in the enterprise's success. Whereas a partner mindset is certain and anticipates the success of the enterprise. When you say, I am working every day to bring Mashiach, I am part of this. It's something that I'm part of. It's something that I'm making a reality. Not just going to sit back and say, okay, God, please do this for us. The next text is from one of the Rebbe's talks from 5744, which was 1984, in the summertime. When we've been discussing the redemption and the era of Mashiach, some of the audience are genuinely astounded at this. Although for obvious reasons, they do not openly voice their amazement. How can an individual appear in public week after week, repeatedly and unceasingly discuss a single subject, the coming of Mashiach? Moreover, this individual emphasizes that he's not merely discussing the published Torah materials on the topic, rather, he's discussing our righteous Mashiach's actual coming in a tangible reality. Here on physical earth, and immediately on this very day, Shabbos Parshas Pinchas 57:44. This individual further, and he says this individual is referring to himself, by the way. This individual further instructs others to sing in each and every occasion, She'ibana Beis Hamikdash, may the holy temple be rebuilt speedily in our days. And he points out that speedily in our days does not refer to the very near future. It actually quite literally means speedily today. Certainly every Jew believes that Mashiach can come at any moment. In keeping with one of the fundamentals of Jewish faith, that it states, I will wait his coming every day. Nevertheless, they wonder, how is it justifiable to discuss this topic without let up, and to emphasize on each occasion that Mashiach can come at that very moment? Is it not rather challenging to expect people to relate to Mashiach's imminence as if it were a tangible fact of reality? So why does this individual speak incessantly about this on every occasion, and with such a single-minded intensity, as if to forcibly ram the idea into minds of his listeners? The conclusion is that all this is a beautiful dream, and we recite our prayers, may my dream be positively fulfilled for me and for all Israel. Nice, but not realistic. If so, they claim there is truly no point in discussing one's dreams at such length and with such frequency. The truth, however, is precisely the opposite. Shnei Zalman Eliadi delivered a discourse on the base of the verse, when God returns the exiles of Israel will be as if those who have dreamed. He explains that our current state of exile is comparable to a dream. Because in a dream, one's sense of perfection can tolerate the most contradictory and irrational things. In other words, our current reality is the dream, whereas the world of Mashiach is our true reality. In a single moment, the situation can be reversed from one extreme to the other. We can awaken from this dream of exile and enter into the true reality, the actual state of redemption. If so, each and every individual present in this room certainly has the ability to make the redemption come immediately, not tomorrow or in the near future, but right now on this Shabbos, Parshas Pinchas 57:44. Before we even have a chance to recite the afternoon prayer, simply state at this very moment, we open our eyes and see Mashiach in the flesh with us here in this room. So it's not that we are hoping for a dream, but that we are dreaming, and we have to wake up to the reality, and that can happen any moment. 1 second. Hold on, I'm going to, for those of you online, try to do this so that I'm not going to share the sound then, and you'll just listen to it on the, we'll tell you if this is better.
Superhuman versus superhumans. 1. The purpose of creation, according to Hasidic teachings, is God's desire for a home in our material world and corporeal reality. 2. The physical world is referred to as the lowly world because it obscures the truth that God pervades every aspect of existence. Making the world a home for God means to penetrate this concealment and transform physical reality into a place that expresses the divine goodness and perfection. 3. The Messianic world is not only a reward for doing mitzvot, but is the actual result of these actions. A mitzvah transforms the object with which it is performed from a self-defined existence into an instrument of God's will. In addition, each mitzvah makes a particular part of the world more receptive to spirituality, bringing it one step closer to expressing the divine goodness and perfection. 4. The mitzvot directly engage with only a small percentage of the physical universe and of each individual life. But each mitzvah action is the product of countless other actions and processes. In this way, the whole of creation is ultimately transformed. 5. The sages teach us that by doing mitzvot, we become a partner with God in the work of creation. There are a number of distinctions between a partner mentality and an employee mentality. A, an employee is driven primarily by his or her job description, whereas for the partner, the company's mission statement is the driving force. An employee is motivated by reward, whereas a partner is results-driven. C, a partner is confident in the success of the enterprise. 6. The 12th foundation of Judaism, by Maimonides now, is not only the belief that Mashiach will come, but also the daily anticipation of the redemption. When we understand that the true nature of reality is the divine goodness and perfection, the expectation of Mashiach's imminent coming is more realistic than the concealment that obscures this truth.
Okay, go to myjli.com/can happen. I want to, let me see, is this better? Thank you, Rabbi. It's great. Okay. I want to remind you next week we're taking a break. There won't be a class next week. So we will see you in 2 weeks. But however, next week, next Sunday night is the holiday of Shavuos. And Monday at about 11.